Good morning. It is 9:01 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Julie Kay. Thanks so much for being up with us this morning. We're going to get right to what everyone is paying attention to, the fact that it is cold, at least for me. Chris, I am very cold.
See, this is somebody that came from Michigan.
That's why I left.
What happened to you? Or were you always like this?
I spent 2 summers here and I've gotten weak. I don't want to be chilly.
That's actually about the time, because I remember, because I came from Flint and you came from Grand Rapids, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I first came here, I laughed at all these Carolinians. I was like, haha, I scoff at your 50s and 30s. And now I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's going to be in the 50s.
I know, I have a jacket on my lap right now.
Oh, no.
I'm inside.
No, I understand. My whole family pretty much lives with blankets on their laps. So it's like a retirement home. I also like to do it too, so I'm also with that. So welcome to the Shea Mulcahy, best after the age of 70. But you were mentioning how chilly it was, and this graphic shows it all. The coldest low of the season, officially 51 degrees. Before it was 52, splitting hairs. But the last time we had 52, and I think it was 53, that happened in October 3rd and 4th. The big difference is as we quickly drop down to that number and we ramp right back up. Now, we've been sitting at pretty much the 51 to 54 range for the last 6 hours, so that really settles in. But I want to bring this back. Julie and I were asking an interesting question. I said, oh yeah, it's cold, but what do you think the coldest temperature that Charlotte has ever recorded? So we're going to open that up to everyone. I want you to guess as well. I have a graphic that's going to follow this. Ooh. So Julie, you've had time to think. This has happened 3 times in Charlotte history, dating back to 1879. Okay.
Me answering this question was also my idea.
Yeah, it was your idea.
So there's no one's fault but my own.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
this is like pure temperature, not a feels like.
Yep. Pure temperature, actual air temperature. Do you want me to give you a range?
No.
Okay. There it is. I like the confidence.
8 degrees.
All right. The hint is there is a minus involved.
Oh, no.
There is a minus involved.
-8.
Okay.
Does it involve a Christmas Eve? For a particular reason?
Very close, but the answer is -5. So that's not too bad. But then I believe it was, this is the one you're looking for. It was December 30th, 1880. Do you remember that? It was a good year.
Back in the day.
I remember it really well.
Those were the good days.
So I guess it would be the eve of New Year's Eve.
I was thinking that Christmas Eve from 4 years ago when we had like the power outages.
Oh, yeah.
So cold.
It was really cold then, but I think that we only hit wind chills in the negatives, not really close to this. But yeah, the last time we had -5 was 1985, January 21st, -5. Let's keep it that way. We haven't done it in quite some time. Actually, there was a couple of years that we even struggled getting down into the teens, so I like this. But great question, Julie. This is what it is. Especially people come up to me all the time and ask weather questions, and then they immediately apologize. Don't. I apologize for you because you're going to get way too much weather than you actually asked for. So I love your questions, so always write into me. We can answer it right here on the Impact Stream, always. All right, so what else do you want to talk about? Talk about this big bad low that's going to plague the Carolinas?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's a live look at Charleston to help set you guys out.
Ominous seas. Well, first off, I forget the man from the Weather Channel that we had an interview with, or at least a snippet from.
Justin Michaels?
That's right, Justin Michaels.
Justin Michaels was out on the Outer Banks yesterday on Live Impact Weather.
Wow.
He said something that kind of blew my mind, that just pretty much from the Aaron event alone, that we had lost 140 feet around that. That's crazy for me to think about. And what I'm most concerned about, and James, also the proud father of the Carolina Weather Group, so he is as close to a meteorologist as you possibly can be, but you didn't have to weather 4 years at a university for it.
Yeah,
but
I don't call myself a meteorologist because you did the math and the physics, and that sounds scary.
They have to take calculus. It's real
calculus,
serious.
Yeah, that was.
I now, as like, I'll take my weather sword. I now announce you honorary weather man or meteorologist. No, but the main point that we're making here is he said 140 feet. I looked into this deeper. Since 1987. Parts of the Outer Banks have lost up to over 675 feet of their beach and shoreline. Now, that's not everywhere. That's only certain parts. Now, some fare a little bit better close to Nags Head and Corolla. But if you really think it's that thin little river around Buxton, close to Hatteras, that has the worst. And Rodanthe, for example, And I know there was a book that was based in there, but they're losing 15 feet of shoreline every single year. So I looked deeper into the USGS to actually see some of these stats, and it's just absolutely staggering what we have overall. So that's my biggest concern, because Erin was about 250 to 300 miles away offshore. Now, it was a big, bad hurricane, so it was causing a much bigger swell, because that literally picks up all the water and it throws it towards the shoreline. But this is an actual low-pressure system that is going to be moving inland. So that's one thing that we're really looking at. It's going to be a decent amount of rainfall that's associated with it. So let's roll tape. Okay, let's bring it back home. We're going to talk about our forecast in the near term, and then we're going to wrap in what's happening across the Carolinas. So your WCNC tower camera, not the most beautiful one that we've seen, because here cometh the clouds. And I'm only talking like that because it is week 2 of the Renaissance Fair. So keep that in mind. Renaissance Festival. And the thing that's going to happen is I think we're going to see most of the rain that's going to be Saturday evening into Sunday morning. So even if it starts to break up on Sunday, if you've been out there, it gets muddy. So keep that in mind. No white tennies at the Renaissance Festival, nor should you at all. But we keep these clouds around really today through the weekend. Current temperatures, we have gained 3 degrees compared to our low, our temperature that we had just about an hour ago. And then our future cast, this is what I'm going to get right to. We have seen a big change compared to what I was talking about, say, yesterday during our newscast. The change is that low pressure system that is going to be a big deal for the Outer Banks is actually trending a little bit further towards the west. So that's going to bring us more rain here in the Charlotte area. So this right here is the worst case scenario that I can find really for rain, but it's a good possibility. So what I want to say is I want you to expect what I'm about to show you, but I want you to maybe be hopeful if you have any plans that it pushes a little bit further east, because even though this isn't a named storm, it still should be treated as one, because we're going to have wind gusts that are going to be up to about tropical storm strength for the Outer Banks, but then it also kind of has that wobble that these systems typically have. So today, I think at most you see a sprinkled, no big deal. Now by tomorrow, we see a little bit of green, starting to creep in. So I think we're dry in the morning. So if you have any plans, like us personally, we're going apple picking. Super excited about it.
What a fun fall plan.
No, thank you. Yeah, which, by the way, if you want to go apple picking, you have to do it in the weekdays because they're sold out on the weekends.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's how popular this is, because you have to buy time slots. So if you all was like, oh, I want to go apple picking the weekend, do it during the weekdays, because I have some great sunny days for you. You'll see it on the 7-day forecast. So we booked this about a month ago, and we'll see how the weather is going to be. But the good news is we're going in the morning. For the afternoon, rain starts to creep in. But I really want people to note that our biggest impacts that I'm really looking out for you is during your Saturday evening into the early morning hours on Sunday. At that point, we're seeing really widespread rain, and check it out, we're even seeing some heavier rain showers, and then after that it's on and off, on and off, on and off. So I'm gonna slow that down for you, but first I wanted to go to this graphic. Sorry, you don't know what I'm dealing with. It's very tiny windows, so it's tough for me to see. All right, so this is our weather impact window. So not weather alert, because this is not life threatening for us here. It'll be weather alert certainly further off towards the east, but the time that I think you're gonna have the most impactful weather to your commute, to what you're doing, starts really as early as 7 o'clock during your Saturday evening. At that point, the rain, I think, starts getting heavy and steady. Also, the winds are starting to pick up. I think we could have wind gusts as high as 30 to 35 miles per hour heading into your Sunday morning. Again, what I'm showing you is the worst case scenario, because I usually like you to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. The best case scenario is you don't see really any rain, and we have less gusty winds to about 20 to 25, but also we need the rain. So this would actually be really a good scenario. And plus, I want to watch football all day, and the game starts at 9:30 on Sunday, and it's really looking like it's going to go my way. So I'm going to show you that it's really for this coming weekend. We have 71-70 before that sunshine starts to move back in, and it really turns out to be a great forecast overall. Okay, so I'm going to rewind. Again, tiny windows. Thank you for bearing with me. But let's go back to your Saturday. So Saturday evening, as I mentioned, it really starts to spread out, as you can see here. So this is right around midnight. I think really either side of midnight looks to be the worst. Once you get to around sunrise, on Sunday morning, we're starting to see a big breakup. I think that means that there's a lot of dry air starting to work its way into these bands. That means less and less rain heading in the afternoon, but it does look like there's enough flow out of the northeast and moisture that's going to be driving in scattered rain showers. So I stopped at 1 o'clock for a specific reason. A lot of not just Panthers fans, but Cowboys fans. This is one of the most popular games that happens on the slate for the Panthers when the Cowboys are in town. Steelers, I think, are number 2 just because of how big their fandom is. There is a chance for rain, and likely you're already going to have a wet seat. So what I always do for these type of events is I bring a small towel with me and put it in my pocket. Good way to dry the seats, or you can just be wearing a poncho and just note that you're going to get wet. But it's not just a rain. It's a cold rain because the temperature is going to be in the 60s. So I need everyone to dress accordingly. Yeah, you will be miserable if you do not have some sort of water-resistant thing and you are just sopping soaked, because it's also going to be breezy as well, so you'll have a wet wind chill as well. But then once you get into the evening, things really start to break up, and this is a huge difference compared to what we just saw a day ago. So that is going to be the major change and the major impact that we see here in the short term. Now, as far as our winds go, technically it's going to be a strong breeze. One of my favorite scales in all of meteorology is the Beaufort wind scale, brought to us by Sir Francis Beaufort. And what he did was he analyzed different wind ranges on how they affected either the water, the waves, sailing, or the everyday. So an example is whenever you have a strong wind, you can have large branches in motion and umbrellas don't really work too well. So keep that in mind. I think the windiest period for that is going to be on Sunday morning. Again, that's why we're a little bit more weather impact heading into your Sunday morning and the overnights on Saturday as well. Now, the Carolina coastline, that's what we want to head back to. Honestly, I'm super concerned just because we've talked about for so long about the near misses that these houses are falling into the ocean. And actually, let's go full, James. I understand the reason why this is happening, but it breaks my heart that we're just letting all this debris and houses fall into the ocean, broken glass. And the reason why is because I think the state offered up to a 40% reimbursement, but they can't claim insurance on these houses until they physically fall into the water.
Wow.
So what's happening is people are actually waiting for this natural cause to happen. So they need this to happen so they can cash their check in on the houses. And I totally understand if you have $1 million property, you got to do it. But it's also a sad situation because think of all the sea creatures that are out there, and we're seeing more and more of these.
I didn't know about that there were so many. I mean, you know about insurance red tape in general, but that is really interesting.
Yeah, and that's been happening more and more, and it's a lot of people don't realize that. And this is actually something I just learned this year too, Julie. And I think it's just kind of it's life. It's the nature of the game. But I wish that there was just something, and this is just my heart and the environmentalist in me, that I wish that we could almost just take the houses down before they already fall into the ocean, because it's the inevitable now. If we're losing 15 feet per year and we lost over 100 feet in certain parts of the Outer Banks, it's never a good situation. All right, so anyways, the reason why we're going to see this is actually technically a nor'easter. Now, a nor'easter, when I was a kid, I thought, living in the Northeast, it's because we're getting pummeled by this thing in the Northeast. It actually has to do with the wind flow. So what's actually happening here is you have winds that are flowing around a low pressure system. If you draw your finger around that is a counterclockwise motion, so that brings a stronger wind out of the Northeast. And also, the big difference here is a nor'easter can be just as powerful as a hurricane. I think one of the best examples we have is the reason why it's not just called Hurricane Sandy, it's called Superstorm Sandy, is because Sandy was a hurricane, and then eventually turned over to more of a synoptic scale nor'easter, where it got intensified with the jet stream and fronts that turned into its own system. So they're also not as pretty to look at. That's the reason why you're seeing this thing just pretty raggedy all over the place. But then since it isn't really a tight circulation, it's spreading out the rain a lot more. So that's why you're seeing a lot more coverage across the Carolinas in general. You're seeing some fronts that are attached, and it's really a deep low pressure system for this type of setup, and that's why you're seeing some wind gusts possibly getting up to about 60 miles per hour. This, I think, is going to cause a lot of power outages along the shoreline. Highway 12 will be closed, and the overwash that we're going to have with this system is going to be extensive, because during Aaron, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Do you by any chance remember the footage of what we had for overwash, my friends? from Aaron along the shorelines?
Do I remember the footage or how much?
Yeah, but how much? Like, cause
You're correct that they had to close NC-12, which is, for viewers who don't know, just like that one road in and out along the Outer Banks that
road
washes over. I'll pull a live camera up.
I believe it was very similar to this, but I think this will be worse as far as erosion goes, because think about it. Most of the Outer Banks is just sand. So when you have big time water, and then also these have poles as well, those waves are taking the sand away, and that's why we're losing so much. But the high impacts that we have here is the Outer Banks, the overwash up to 3 to 5 feet. Now, that means they're going to be coming over the banks. You're going to have just as much of a situation, and this is going to happen really over almost a couple-day period, and then winds over 50 miles per hour on top of that can sometimes make the waves a lot higher. This is not a tropical storm, but the problem is, if this was Tropical Storm Karen, well, first off, the internet would break. Karen did form over the northern Atlantic, and she is not leaving a bad Yelp review, so good news there. But this storm doesn't have a name. It's just a nor'easter, but can have the same impact. So that's one of the problems here, that people would pay more attention if it actually was a tropical storm. Here's an awesome shot. Way to go, James. So these are different shots here along Highway 12. And I recognize a few of these. Some of these are right around Buxton, I believe.
Yep.
And physically, I remember when Aaron rolled by, again, this was not a landfall. This was just a mist storm, but it still was substantial. It was a little bit close to the United States compared to closer to Bermuda, but there was a few of those shots that literally were covered in sand because all the overwash from the water came on. I think we're going to see that again. So come Monday when we're here on the stream, we're going to be talking about Highway 12 likely closed. We're going to talk about more houses falling into the ocean. If they don't, I would be surprised, because one shot that they showed on the Weather Channel with Jeremy was substantial. It like almost was leaning. So
I have that home right here.
do you? Okay,
I think you're talking about.
let's see.
Hang on. So this is debris from a previous home that collapsed there along the coast.
And this is my problem. I wish that all wasn't going into the
That
ocean.
one. This house.
This one right here. Yeah, see, it's leaning. Like, look, I would not go on the porch. And also, a lot of these are party events for some kids. They go out, and this is where, hopefully not in conditions like this. But yeah, look at that. Yeah, that thing's just ready to go.
Looks like a cartoon. It's almost so.
It does. Like, I think I drew this when I was 5, where it's not proportional and everything. But there's a bunch of these. But also, one person asked me last week, and said, these houses keep falling off, and why do they build them so close? Well, a lot of these, if you look at the architecture, were likely built in either the late 80s or maybe early 90s, around that time frame. The beach and the shoreline in some spots was 600 feet out.
Wow.
So now that's all come up. So that's been the problem. And there are several areas, like I mentioned, close to Corolla is a little bit better. It's a little bit thicker, better conditions. They don't have the harsh, really ocean environments in some parts of that. But it's really sad to see that we are losing parts of the Outer Banks, and this event is going to wash even more of it out.
That's just, the footage is already so upsetting. I know that some of those, like, just like we talked about the insurance red tape that I didn't know about. I guess if there's some silver lining is that people are paying attention now. I've seen these clips everywhere, not just local news. I'm seeing it all over national news. And so hopefully people are paying more attention. Sad that it's come to this, though.
100%. And I will say, and this is just one thing I hope, but you know, the law of averages, the Outer Banks cannot stand to take a direct hit from a major hurricane.
Yeah.
Like, and history will tell that it could happen again. But at this stage, if we're getting weaker tropical storms, if we're getting hurricanes hundreds of miles out in the shoreline that is taking feet, even over 100 feet away from that, there are parts of the Outer Banks that can't take this. So I'm luckily this is a little bit weaker end, but it's kind of a sad story here in North Carolina to see that literally part of our state is being ripped back out to sea.
It's hard to come to terms with.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to end on such a serious note, but that's just my heart. But let's go bring up the 7-day forecast again, because we got sunshine on the back end of it.
You know what? People need to know. It's a good thing you mentioned. People need to know.
It's true, and see, it's a tough conversation, because you are going to see some of those videos. Because every person that I've watched the video of the house falling into the ocean, it sparks a discussion, like you had said, but it's also jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
And it is also fascinating. I would like to know, how many other states build their houses on stilts like this?
Well, even just like I didn't know before I moved here that those were, I guess, real.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of them before. I was like, there's no way
Yeah.
there's no way those are still up. And I didn't understand why, and now I do. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just, it looks, especially that one we saw, it looks unsafe.
And you ever think about it, the best way that I can put it without getting in trouble is North Carolina literally sticks its derriere out into the Atlantic. So it's actually a surprise that you do not have more of these bigger storms that are out there. But it literally is a chain of sand. So and that's the little bit weaker spot. So this is something that we have to expect. That's why Highway 12 is constantly being repaired by this. But one last little ending stat that we're seeing here with all the different shots here on Highway 12. This hurricane season is really interesting. I was digging into the stats that the amount of times that we've had our first ever landfalling hurricane, because we have not had a landfalling hurricane. The first time that we have ever had our first landfalling hurricane in October or later has only happened 6 times, dating back for about almost 200 years of data. So only 6 times that's happened. So that means the history's on our side to actually, for us to have not have a landfalling hurricane. But it's been 34 times in history that we haven't at all had a landfalling hurricane. So this could be 35 the way things are trending. But I jinx everything, so I hope that was not a jinx. So we'll see. Not on wood.
Actually, I do have a good note to end on.
What's that?
I had a good time at the Panthers game.
Did you?
It was
okay,
my
good.
first game since the Rams were in St. Louis. Looks like the weather's a little bit rougher this week, but I had a good time.
That's
it
good.
was nice. James?
I have a question about this weekend's forecast, Chris. For
Yes,
those of
sir.
us thinking about going to the mountains to look at fall colors, will we
Ooh.
be impacted by the nor'easter offshore?
First off, that is a great question because today in the mountains, and here I actually had a graphic that I built in this again, tiny windows, so just bear with me. Today's forecast is actually one of the better that we have across the Carolinas because up in the mountains, sorry.
I love how you're really leaning in to your computer screen.
So yeah, you
Here.
can't see it. It's a weird shot when it comes here. But my grandfather mountain, I'm getting photos from Leslie Restivo pretty much every day. They're at their peak on top of Grandfather Mountain. So Destiny Richards actually asked me, I was like, how's it going to be? It will be breezy just because there's a lot of wind moving in the atmosphere around here. But you're looking at sunshine more of a cloudy to a mostly cloudy day that we have here. So that's great. But the best news I have for you, James, is that I think that rain doesn't even really reach our friends in the mountains overall. I think it's mainly going to stay further off towards the east. So if you're going on, what day are you going?
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow? Okay, that's what I would recommend in here. Just focus in on the mountains here.
Okay.
So this is
Watching.
Saturday morning. Roll tape. You're seeing that rain still further off towards the east. At this point, I think that you start to see it get close, but then we're at midnight. You're not going to be looking at leaves at midnight, so then you're good. But now for Sunday, that's where things change. So yeah, if you are going to go, I definitely would pick Saturday because this is in the morning. You're starting to see rain really pass. And the winds are also going to be gusty up to 30 miles per hour here. I'm not getting on that bridge. I'm just letting you know. You cannot pay me enough to get on that bridge even at 30 miles per hour. So likely they might be shutting it down if you want to go out on the bridge because I think that there has to be a wind range that they don't let people go up there, I'd assume. But so yeah, Saturday is definitely the one that I would choose.
You two both having fun fall plans this weekend.
I know.
Yeah,
You want to go look at leaves?
Yeah, well, see, I'm doing apples, you're doing leaves, and then you can do apples the next week, and then I'll do leaves. We'll do a trade-off.
And I'm working tomorrow, so one of y'all can take that next week as well.
Sorry.
Okay. I actually ran into somebody, and they were telling me that if you don't want to go to the mountains, and I've always been terrified to say this, so correct me if I'm wrong, Uwharrie National Forest, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Uwharrie National Forest, since they do have some higher elevations, some mountains over there, that it peaks late October to early November, and it's more of an hour drive away.
Right, because that's east of here?
Yeah, east of here. So if you want to kind of go for a beta version of the Blue Ridge Parkway, I heard that's also a wonderful substitute if you don't want to, and it's not as much traffic. So just kind of like a little outsider tip there.
There we go. All right, Chris, thank you. Always giving us the extensive forecast.
Almost too much, but thank you for spending 25 minutes with me.
We kept asking you questions, to be fair, so that's
That is true. That is
We
true.
kept
You
here.
baited me.
I know. But thank you for joining us. We appreciate you and your James, what was that?
Oh, this is my sign for commercial break.
Oh,